Welcome to today's Destination Unknown. I'm your host, Alyssa Hall. So today I've got something a little bit different planned for our video cast, and that is the subject of jumpers. And jumpers is something that I've talked about in a few other podcasts as well as videos along the way, and I've always said I was going to get to a longer discussion about them. Well, here we are today. So I thought the best way to do this today is to start shuffling and just see if I can get any jumpers to happen in the moment. But before I do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the theory of it. And so the theory of a jumper is that this is a card which will just kind of pop out, slide out, or fall out on its own, so to speak. So if I'm shuffling along and I happen to drop several cards, maybe two, three, four, or even a chunk, because I'm warming up and the cards are too, so to speak, then yeah, that's just a misshuffle. That's not a big deal. But a jumper can sometimes be qualitatively different. And because most often they happen when I begin shuffling, and at that part in my reading as a reader, I'm talking to my sitter and I'm asking them about their question or about the spread that we're about to come up with for their question. So I haven't formally begun to read, is my point. So I haven't formally asked a question yet of the tarot cards, usually when a jumper happens. Now, sometimes you'll be shuffling and you'll be saying something and it seems like it comes out in response to what you just said. That can also happen. But usually, if it just pops out and it's of its own accord, the best way that I describe it to someone when they come out, I say, "Oh, you have a jumper." And they say, "Great, what's that?" And I explained that a jumper is a card that comes out and it's as if the tarot is showing you a mirror of yourself or your situation right now. So it's not necessarily an answer or an outcome or anything like that. It's almost like the universe just going, "Hey, here's what you look like right now." So with that in mind, let's begin to shuffle. So my shuffle style, which I talked about in the shuffle video cast way back over Christmas, was that I lace the cards. I also flat spin the cards. And then what you don't see out of camera is I kind of roll the cards to one side to get them to all come together again. And then I'll repeat it. So I'll bring them together nice and tight and start the process over again. And I'll do this several times. There went a jumper. Did you see it? I have no idea how well that shows up on camera, but we're just going to try. So the card today is Justice. Do you read them as a reversal? That's another thing that I've often wondered. My universal rule is that no, it should always be read upright. Don't try to figure out a reversal in a jumper. So the card that jumped out was the Justice card, which we just talked about. So I don't know if that's the deck's way of saying, "Hey, remember our lesson that we just talked about here on the podcast?" But that's kind of an ironic jumper as well as a mirror for the moment. Quite illuminating. So let's just keep going. So the cards themselves, like I said, I lace the cards. That's the process. If I slow it down, I'm sliding the cards from my dominant hand into my non-dominant hand. And I use gravity to help, but I also use a little bit of pressure on the thumb to pull down a small chunk at a time. And then I may or may not spin the cards like I just said. So, and I'm not trying to be messy at any point. When a jumper happens, that's another thing about them. It's not purposeful. And that's why it's kind of different that if I drop a chunk of cards at a time, which I try not to do, it's not a very good impression to leave on your client. Is, that's just, you pick them up, you don't say anything, you just fold them back in and get back to work shuffling. Don't draw attention to what you don't want people to pay attention to, in other words. But a jumper makes itself known, so it will just come flying out of its own accord. The last one certainly did. I don't know if I'll get another jumper, you guys. That was so interesting, that the one that we got. That was a chunk. That was me sliding the cards a little bit and being clumsy. Definitely feels different. than a jumper does. So let's just keep going. So I was talking in the moment a little bit before about how jumpers might present themselves, which is sometimes they kind of flip out. So if that were to happen and I were trying to mimic it, it would be as if the card kind of, whoa, look what I forced to flip out. So it'll kind of flip itself over, up and out. And look what I made flip out. Ooh, that's kind of, let's just put that right back. We don't need any focus on anything that we don't need to. And there's a slider. Okay, so that one was a jumper. This one, which I don't know again if it showed up on the camera, this is so wild. So 4 of Wands. Okay, I think that's the tarot's way of saying it's okay. We didn't mean the death card, because the 4 of Wands is, in my short-term version of it, is good news coming. So it's like, yeah, no, good news. It's okay. You're all right. Things are okay. I think that was the universe's way of saying you're forced jumper on the death card. Don't get spooked, Alyssa. You've got, nothing to worry about. Oh, now that was a chunk that came out. So that is a good example of what that looks like. Again, I got to make sure I'm shuffling into, make sure my posture is so that you can see all of these actions as they happen. That was a small chunk. That was 3 cards. That would not count as a jumper card. So why? Because it just was some of them sliding out the back when I was using my hand. So feels different. You really will know the difference. That's the thing about jumpers. They feel different, and they're kind of universal. If you go back and watch the interview, if you happen not to see it yet, of Zorian Cross, one of the 6 top tarot readers in India, he kindly gave us an interview. I've known him for a long, long time, and I was dying to get his take on it because I had been thinking about the topic, and I wanted to present other tarot readers' viewpoints of the jumper phenomenon, if you will. So I'm just shuffling away. I'm not trying to go fast or slow. This is kind of my average speed. I'm just trying to remember to hold my hands up a little higher than I might normally. So there was a jumper. That one kind of did a flip. So I was talking about holding my hands up and that sort of thing. In general, this is now the 9 of Swords. This is kind of a counterbalance, interestingly, to the card that we just got. So this is when you're so worried that you're kind of stressed out. You might literally be up at night in bed worrying about it, which is what we literally see in this image. I did have a very stressed out morning. I have anxiety, and I managed to stress myself out with some of the stuff I had going on in my life this morning. Maybe that's the card's way of saying, hey, yo, quit being so dramatic. You just really need to chill. It's not that bad. If I had to interpret that one in the moment for Alyssa today, I think that would apply to my frantic energy. I just get, I can get that way sometimes. I think we all do, but I also know I have anxiety legit. So I can definitely get too worked up, more than I need to be. Let's give them a spin just because, and because I haven't since the top. And all right, we're going into like 8.5 minutes now, solid. Whoa, shuffling. And now that one definitely slid out. Did you see it? Did you feel it? It kind of came out the bottom. And as I was moving the chunk of cards, I could literally see it going out the side. And that's why I was like, whoa. So this one's the Ace of Cups. Okay, cool, groovy. What's this one mean? The aces are always your seed when we talked about the numerology and 1 through 10s. We're going to be talking, the ace itself is the seed. So it's all the potentiality of the suit itself. So it's almost as if it's a gift from the divine when these moments of inspiration can hit. That's another concept that applies to the aces. And this in particular is showing the cups suit. So the cups applies to emotions and intuition. So that's an interesting like starting point to something that I care about, and that it might also involve intuition. I feel like that might almost be a pointer back here to the podcast, because I feel like the podcast here is in its infancy. It's still growing. It's just all in its potential. Um, I don't know, it's a little further past the ace point, but maybe? Sometimes you just got to hold on to things and see if they apply themselves later in a way that makes more sense in the moment than it does in the moment, I should say. So, okay, yeah, I'm just trying to be nice and careful, give my cards a chance to see if they got anything else. Like, how many jumpers do you need in a day, Alyssa? I've never done this. I've never just shuffled. Now, that was my thumb. I was trying to grab the next chunk and I flipped this one over. I like it. I like seeing it. It's the 10 of Cups. That's the happy family card. And that's the culmination point. So I don't know. I mean, I flipped it with my thumb, but I'll still explain. It's interesting because we just saw the Ace of Cups, and the Ace is the beginning, and the 10 is the end. So where there's the beginning is the potential of something that you love, care about, something that might also deal with intuition. Here we see it come to its fruition, and it's expressed as a family that is now complete, so to speak. So, okay. So we saw a beginning and an ending. I don't know how that applies, but it's always a good card. It's, as you can tell, kind of from the emotion of the card, the picture itself with the rainbow. It has very good connotations, so I'm not worried about it, but I just don't know how to apply this. I don't know how many jumpers one can get in a day, but like I said, that one felt more like my thumb flipping it over. Very mysterious. And indeed, I might invite you to shuffle along with me when I write the commentary for this, so that this whole time you can see if you get any jumpers while you're watching me shuffle, to see if I get any jumpers. And let me know if you do that. I would love to hear that in the commentary. I'll give this a few more minutes of shuffling just to see if I can get anything else to come out and play like that. Okay, all right. That felt like an answer to a question. So at the very top of this, I said, sometimes they will come out almost in response to what you're saying in the moment. And that's why I've been trying to keep a running commentary going while I shuffle, so that in case that would happen, and I feel like that literally just did. So I said, come out and play, literally, and we got the Two of Wands. So the Two of Wands is a very introspective as well as extra, the opposite of introspective, outwardly perceptive. And it shows someone who is overlooking a horizon. They hold the world in their hands. This one literally sometimes will mean to me, and I don't know, maybe this is how it's applying itself today, since I said come out and play, and we're broadcasting this on. I often use this as a reference to the World Wide Web. So he has the world in his hands, and sometimes this card will literally come up when something is being discussed that has to do with technology, or it's being shared via technology, or the concepts or the relationship is primarily established via technology. And I could say that about me right here on this podcast. So I'm going to take this as my final jumper, as a way of saying, hey, here's me using, so wands are a suit that have to deal with creativity and some of the things that you're passionate about, not passionate in a romantic sense. That comes through in the emotions of the cups. This is more like your creative passions. And I definitely feel like this is my creative passion, to spend this time with you. Thank you for watching about jumpers. Hey, I hope maybe you had a few jumpers with me. Like I said, I'm going to include that as a suggestion in case anyone wants to play along. And even if not, I appreciate all your time as always. It's so much fun being able to share this material each week. Thank you, and keep listening.